Here are the 3 reasons why you can't scale past $1 million a year in revenue. And I'm saying this specifically by working with brands that are doing 12 million, 20 million a year in revenue. The biggest bottleneck I see brand to brand is literally founders just don't know or what stage they're at within their business as far as cash flow. Now, e-commerce is a capital intensive business. You have a lot of external variables, right? You have contractors. You need, if you're running paid ads, right, you need budget for said paid ads. You need budget for testing different landing pages, offer testing, so on and so forth. And as a byproduct, also, you have to spend money to send emails, send money to spend or to send SMS messages, so on and so forth. Now, you also have to keep track of inventory, right? Because you have to send massive inventory orders for the next seasonality drop, so on and so forth, right? So, of course, e-commerce is playing the game on hard. But if you're able to navigate those waters and have organization in place so that you're familiar with what time of year you have to place said orders, you know the seasonality of your customers, you understand that the longer you're in business, then you're able to navigate and you can outcompete other brand owners who are struggling to deal with those inefficiencies. Now, let me tie this back into paid ads. How do we scale paid ads? Well, we need to know our unit economics. Now, how do I calculate unit economics? Well, it's pretty simple. It's ultimately understanding, okay, what is our MSRP? What is our discounts? After that, let's say if somebody opts in, I'll be getting 10% off, 5% off, 15% off. From there, it's what is our shipping fees? What is our cost of goods? What's the fulfillment side? What is the processing payments fees, or what is that percentage? And then as a byproduct, right, there's some external variables. And then from there, you have ideally your gross margin. And then as a byproduct, your net margin underneath that, right? Your net margin ideally is what 10% is the target. So for example, let's say for every $50 order you push that has an AOV, let's say your cost is like $4, so on and so forth. Shipping, if you're paying for shipping, right, or the customer pays, that you have to deal with. And then from there, I mean, net margin, you're probably netting like $10 or $15 from that. Now, how can we grow those numbers? How can we make sure that we have a pathway to scale? Well, we have to keep track of this, right? We want to put this on paper. We want to have sheets. We want to make sure that offer to offer, we understand what's happening. Now, the easiest form to dial in your unit economics to understand what's happening at all times is pretty simple. You need a chart like this. Something where it's a calculator. You can enter your product SKU, MSRP, cost of goods, shipping, receiving stock, your transaction payment fees around what 3%. And then pick and pack fees, shipping and fulfillment, return rate, total cost of delivery, your unit margin, your net target, and this is all calculated. So let me run you through a quick example of what this looks like. Let's say we have a $50 AOV target, or our MSRP is at $50 for the one single SKU, the COGS on that. Let's say it's like $5. From there, shipping and receiving stock, let's say it's what, like $3, customer or pick and pack fees, like $1.50. Shipping and fulfillment, since we pay ideally for shipping. From there, we have all of these numbers, right? So then our net target, 20%, we're netting $10 profit from each specific target at a CAC anything below $18, right? In this ideal scenario, right? So we mapped out the vision. We say, okay, for this specific offer, for this specific SKU, $50, our cost of delivery total is $22. And then from there, we have a $28 unit or net margin, not net margin, unit margin, gross margin. And then from there, we have our net target, which is, okay, if we get a sale below $18, we're netting at least $10 profit. So from there, in theory, it's like, okay, we have this number, we have our unit economics dialed. Can we keep growing on gross margin? If our gross margin is below ideally 75%, then you need to at least pair up your SKU with something else to raise the overall AOV. And as a byproduct, from there, you have more net target to work with, and then your CAC target is going to go up. So then you can afford to get a brand new customer at around what, $25 in this scenario if you pair another bundle. So the goal of this, if I were to reverse engineer, if I'm a business owner and I want to have the chance to profitably scale my company, I need to know my numbers. I need to dial in my unit economics and figure out and craft offers to raise the overall net margin on the front end if I'm running paid ads. And as a byproduct as well, the kind of third phase is you can't afford to outsource this to an agency, right? Very rarely do agencies go in and do a full audit of your business, right? You need to take control. You need to take responsibility of your own business, and you need to understand your numbers so that you can set targets and give agencies a North Star if you choose to work with agencies, or give your internal team the North Star they need to ultimately set your business up for success. Time and time again, I've seen founders come into businesses or come into working with agency relationships, and they don't know what's happening, and then they tend to pretty much feel like they've been burned. But in reality, they didn't set that agency up for success or any contractor they choose to hire. So it's very important that you know your numbers, you have a pathway target, you understand that, okay, if you spend X amount of dollars in ad spend, this is your threshold you need to hit. And as a byproduct, you have the ability to float that cash flow, or you have that runway to go for an extra 6 months if you need it, right? It really depends on seasonality, your unit economics, your relationship with your manufacturer, so on and so forth. Now, we can even go a step further and say, okay, this profit analysis sector is like, okay, we spend $300 a day. These are our target markets, so on and so forth. So let me do this cost breakdown. Say our average order value is like $150. COGS from that, say the AOV is what, $50. Cool. I need to update this sheet, but in theory, this should plug in. Let's say our credit card fees are what, 2.9% shipping costs, and then from there, our fulfillment costs. There we go. So we were able to input this data into our cost breakdown sheet, and then from there, let's say our average order value is 100, or for this example sake, let's say it's $50. So we keep this running. $50, 10% COGS, 2.9% credit card fees, $11. So total cost of product and fulfillment, we're looking at $19.75 or 40%. And then from there, profit analysis. Let's say we were pushing a $50 product at roughly around $28 gross margin. Then we would, if we're spending $300 a day in ad spend, this can be adjusted, of course. If we're spending $300 a day in ad spend, we're looking at $9,000 a month. Our ROAS success target has to be 2.5x, right? And our net profit, this is what we're going to be netting. Now, the reason why it's super important that you have these systems or you have this infrastructure is pretty much because I mentioned this in one of my recent tweets, right? I've taken dozens and dozens of calls with founders, and it blows my mind how many of them don't know their numbers. eCom is a cash-focused business. For e-commerce, you need to float cash flow for inventory, for future orders, for returns, for if something happens, so on and so forth, right? The reason why you can be doing $1 million a month in sales, but if your unit economics or your expenses are very, very high, you can still go out of business. So it's very important that you keep track of, okay, what's your runway if you choose to run ads, inventory, COGS, contractor fees, fulfillment. And then our goal is, regardless, our key target is we want to keep raising our gross margin. So we want to get our gross margin to at least 75%. We can do this by combining SKUs together. We can do this by just lowering manufacturing costs, so on and so forth. Those kind of areas outside the business is what can allow you to have profitability, especially if you're running paid ads on the front end. So this is a game of, okay, if I'm running paid ads, how do I scale? Well, you can either reduce your CPA and keep rolling with the same AOV, which I believe is harder in my opinion. You can raise your AOV and you can have a higher CPA target. Ideally, in an equilibrium world, we want to have both, where we see a reduction in CPA and we keep raising our AOV. Now, areas outside the business, like I said before, you talk to your manufacturer, you find ways to lower your expenses. Maybe you order more in quantity. That's one area. As far as shipping, maybe you go from 3PL to now just in-house fulfillment, but you need a fulfillment house, which is tough. You need cash flow for that. Maybe it's you move manufacturing from China to Mexico. Maybe there's other areas outside the business that can allow you to give you more runway, right? Maybe it's lowering your percentage of, or getting credit cards that have cash back, giving credit cards that allow you to have runways, so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of software coming up that allows you to be flexible with your cash flow, especially during this economy. So you have to be fruitful. You have to understand your resources, and you have to have the ability to ultimately know your unit economics, know your numbers, because that's going to set you apart from every other e-commerce founder that's outsourcing to agencies or don't know their numbers, right? So that's kind of the pathway to scale if you're trying to have a successful 2024. Now, with that being said, if you're interested in ultimately building in-house for an exit, or you want the direct formulas that I covered on this call, check out scalevelocity.io and feel free to book in a call with me and my team. And then from there, you can just check out our case studies, our testimonials, so on and so forth. So that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.